Geneva Convention? More like Geneva Suggestion. In today's video, I am going to pull off a little innocent prank, like dropping a nuclear bomb. But that alone would be too easy. So I have challenged myself to get a nuke within 10 games. And if I fail, I'll have to eat the most vile and disgusting food I could think of. For this mission, I have chosen the Soviet Union. You might wonder why. Well, when I first started playing this game, I was led to believe that the Soviet Union was severely overpowered. And now, after clocking in over 250 hours, I can confidently say that was a lie. But fear not, this minor inconvenience will not stop me. Moving on to our first game. For game 1, I chose to start with the ZSU-57, as it's a great anti-air vehicle. And right after spawning, a classic Tiger player drove right into me. Please! I beg you! After getting released, I headed towards A, and as I approached the capture point, I encountered my first unsuspecting plane. And it seemed this plane had a problem, and I was the solution. Then, I successfully captured A, and if you're wondering what I was doing here, well, the answer to that is simple: my best. After that, I began heading towards B, but suddenly, out of nowhere, my strongest opponent yet appeared: Swedish public transport. After narrowly escaping with my life, I continued towards B, and single-handedly earned a kill and captured B. Upon securing the capture point, I noticed that A was unprotected. So I headed back there. On my way, I was ambushed by a plane, but fortunately it missed me and flew away, claiming it had destroyed A tanks. After that, I rescued a teammate and narrowly avoided being strafed to death 2 more times. Leave me alone! Then the match concluded, and I only accumulated half the points I would have needed to get a nuke. With that disappointment, on to game 2. So I started the game off by heading to C to shoot at the fence. Don't worry, it liked children. Then I heard a chunky German boy approaching, so I tried to ambush him. In the process, I completely outskilled him without getting lucky at all. After that, I heard something getting close to C, so I went to investigate and promptly got shot. After respawning in the BTR, I tried getting revenge, but he was already dead. So I recaptured C and then decided to cease living. After respawning in my IS-3, I headed back to C and heard an enemy nearby. I used the tried and true tactic of becoming a Goblin and ambushed him. Then I got confused about directions, and after figuring out where the secret location of forward was, I headed to C and found an unsuspecting LG fridge. Luckily, it still had warranty because it just got a minor defect. Then I recaptured C again and headed down to B to whiff my shot and get unalived. I knew that after my first death, a nuke wouldn't be possible anymore, but I still tried my best to respawn and help out my team so we could at least win. Okay, this was pretty unlucky, but if I go in slowly and stay aware of my surroundings. With that disappointment, on to game 3. For this round, I chose to start with the BMP-1, which is a very strong vehicle. However, there was just a teeny tiny issue. I didn't have the upgraded missiles yet. For those who don't know what that means, it requires me to stop my vehicle, shoot the missile, and then guide it with inverted WASD controls, which, quite frankly, makes it challenging to hit my targets. But fear not, this is not my first encounter with being challenged. At the start, I dodged this IS-2 like I dodge a consistent upload schedule, and headed to C. After facing no opposition during the capture of C, I got the hunch that the enemy could be heading for B. So I did the same. On my way, I joined up with an allied BMP-1 with actually useful missiles. But we weren't done yet. While getting closer to B, I encountered this wild Tiger 2, who I had to teach that this was a no parking zone. Shortly after, we encountered a raid boss, a mouse. And if I'm not mistaken, there was 6 of us approaching him, and he still took out one of our AAs before perishing. After witnessing that, I helped out a teammate with repairs and headed back to B, where I found an unsuspecting Type 75, which I failed to kill with one shot, and just like leaving your wallet unattended in Eastern Europe for a little too long, he disappeared. So I recaptured B and had to inform another Tiger that he still couldn't park there. Then I checked and realized that I was 1000 spawn points away from unlocking the nuke. But time was running low, so I had to hurry and come up with a strategy. Good thing I came up with the tactic of whiffing every single shot like a goddamn moron, but still getting the kill. Shout out to Heat for fusing on a mesh fence. After that well-deserved kill, I heard another tank approaching, so I tried to figure out from which side he was coming from, and going into Goblin ambush mode once again. But unfortunately, my teammate got him first. Time was running low, we were winning too fast, and the only way I could still get enough points for a nuke would be by rushing into their spawn. This time, I didn't whiff my shot against the fence, and actually hit and destroyed the Tiger. 1 or 2 kills left and I would have my nuke, but then I made the mistake of thinking there was only one tank, and not considering that he would use Shadow Clone Jutsu to duplicate himself and whoop my ass. With that disappointment, on to game 4. I chose to start with the BMP again and headed to C. On my way, I witnessed another BMP trying to mount a rock, but he got rejected. Then, as I approached C, I attempted to get rid of the fences so my missiles and heat could hit their targets. However, the moment I shot my machine gun, I got shot and died. But I survived my death and responded accordingly by shooting a civilian vehicle and then spamming my spotting button, hoping for the best. Fortunately, my strategy was brilliant, and a teammate came to my aid and helped me repair. After that, a martyr tried to ambush me, but I gracefully dodged by doing absolutely nothing, and Uno reversed his ass. Then, I saw that my teammate, who helped me out earlier, was in need of assistance, so I rushed over to help him repair. After that was finished, we got ready to intercept the upcoming assault by the enemy team. I first destroyed one of the 3 remaining martyrs, and then tried to surprise the other one by pushing around the corner. But at that exact moment, I made a severe mistake. I didn't notice that my enemy was a stand user who used his stand's ability to make my gun face the goddamn moon. So I respawned in the IS-3, and while pushing into the town, I realized that the owner of this building wasn't homeless. I decided to change that, but the owner was smart. He built his house to the Soviet heavy tank resistance standard. A rookie mistake on my part. After that disappointment, I headed back to C and found a martyr breaking the speed limit. But unfortunately for him, the speed limit in this town was enforced by 122mm armor-piercing high explosive. Then, I started heading back to C, and I swear to God I stayed completely calm while getting killed by another martyr. So, I respawned in my BTR. So I respawned in my ZSU-37 because someone had to deal with all these planes. With my radar locked on a plane and me preparing to shoot it down, I, of course, proceeded to destroy this AML-90. By the way, did you know that the company who built the 90mm cannon for the AML was called Gyat? So yeah, back to removing planes. And the game is over. With that disappointment, on to game 5. And we start off with me forgetting to press record, only realizing my mistake after killing an AMX-50 super based. Don't worry, I died shortly after. Then, I decided to spawn in the ZSU-37. So yeah, following that, I showed this AMX-30 the way to the exit of life, where I shortly after followed him. It was time again to spawn the BMP, and now I had the upgraded missiles, which I quickly used to dunk on this T-54 and then perfectly shoot down this plane with my main gun and destroy... Wait.
3 weeks later.
Destroy it. After that, I tried to pull off a flank on A, since we were losing fast. On my way, I destroyed the... and then a French chonker. And right as I destroyed the ZSU-57, we unfortunately lost. With that disappointment, on to game 6. For this game, I got a friend to play with me, so I didn't have to suffer by myself. We started off at the bottom spawn and headed towards B, where we found our first adversary. Unfortunately, I failed to take care of them, because apparently I was too stupid to shoot a missile in a straight line. Then, we captured B and I headed south, where I encountered a Hori. Then, I headed towards point A, because it was the last capture point we didn't own. On my way, I found an unsuspecting Centurion, who apparently was completely deaf, since he didn't hear my loud-ass missile that I purposefully shot into the wall right in front of me. So, I took my time to line up my shot and dealt with him. Then, I teamed up with a Tiger II to capture A. So, my mate and I respawned and we headed toward... I headed towards that tortoise that destroyed me earlier. Then, I headed towards B again and heard a tank approaching, so I ambushed him. After that, I precisely destroyed the radiator on this AA and then got stuck on an invisible wall. After that, my mate and I went onto the pursuit of the anti-air that got away. But on the way, I found a skink trying to get onto the battlefield right after spawning, and we can't have that. Then, my mate got cooked, and I got my revenge on the AA. And the game was over. I only had 3 games left before I would fail the challenge, so it was time to bring out my secret weapon, the Object 292. A tank with a teeny tiny 152mm cannon that can penetrate almost 700mm of armor. That's the length of a dog. This tank can shoot through an armored dog. In Warthunder. So, on to game 7, which I started off by spawning and heading directly away from the capture point because I barely played any top tier so far and I was scared of these people. So, I went north and saw lots of enemies on the map and prepared to ambush them. The first one to run into my trap was a Kampfpanzer 70. Then an AMX 30, super, not based. And then I killed an Object 292, but the universe couldn't handle this paradox, so I instantly exploded. But God can't stop me, so I respawned, and like the genius that I am, headed to the exact same spot that I just died at. Arriving, I heard a helicopter, helicopter! He flew past me, but came back into my sights for a slight second, and he suffered a critical hit, which apparently means jackass because he continued flying. Then, I heard a tank approaching, so I decided to critically remove his gunner, cannon barrel, and cannon breech.
Fucking slaves, get your ass back here!
Seeing this again, how the heck didn't that kill him? Anyway, I was now confident that with this powerhouse of a tank, I had a pretty good chance of getting a nuke. And with that in mind, I forgot to record the next round. So I had to record the in-game replay, which is why there is no HUD in this match. But anyways, on to game 8. I started off by driving to the far outside of the map towards A, to maybe catch some unsuspecting players not checking their flanks. But I got found first by a Begleitpanzer 57, who I quickly told to bugger off. Unfortunately, I didn't destroy him, but he wasn't a threat to me anymore. Since A got already captured by my teammate, I pushed on to destroy the Begleitpanzer, but was greeted by a Leopard 2, who I quickly introduced to a pretty big metal rod. Twice. Then I saw a lot of enemies on the invisible minimap and headed towards them. The first one I found was a Kampfpanzer 70. And then an AMX 30 Daka, who survived my shot but got finished off by a teammate. Then I hit the engine of this Challenger Mark III, and he responded by not giving a shit and continuing on with his day. So I started to chase him down, but he fortunately reversed just like a Tesla driver, right into his demise. After that, I decided to drive around this corner for no reason at all and get greeted by this T-72. But luckily, my brain was so smooth that his insults just slid off. At this point, I had 4 kills and 1 assist. This round was looking pretty good. So after seeing the autocannon fire, I had to restrain myself to not just drive right into it. So I waited. I saw the Begleitpanzer pass me, but he didn't notice me. And I heard multiple tanks approaching. But there were still more tanks on their way. My reload is 10 seconds, so I was clenching my butt cheeks to hopefully reload before the other tanks came around the corner. And I just destroyed 2 tanks with 1 shot. I was getting very close to the nuke. I was at around 2000 spawn points right now. So I turned around to eliminate the Begleitpanzer from earlier, but I had to get closer, and once I did, I destroyed him. But I made the mistake of not checking my rear when I pushed out of my position. so I got punished by a Kampfpanzer 70. It was so close, yet so far. With that painful disappointment, on to Game 9. My spirit was crushed at this point, and to make matters worse, this was my first time on the map Spaceport. I started the game off by driving to point A and promptly getting stuck on a corner. Then I saw an unsuspecting Type 72 crossing a hill, so I pressed the funny button and dealt with him. Next, I spotted a few enemies through my binoculars, but I wasn't able to shoot at them. So I continued on to point A and found a Begleitpanzer just vibing. I didn't agree with that. Then I saw Wally's head poke out, but there wasn't much I could do, so I hid behind the building at A and saw another Type 74 jumping over a hill. After dealing with him, I caught an M48 Super pushing A. I destroyed him. But someone else started shooting at me, so I tactically shat myself and hid behind the building. Then I got revenge bombed, but the guy missed me. So back to the guy who was shooting at me earlier. I perfectly eliminated his commander, which absolutely was my intention. And then he got greeted by my teammates' missile. After that, I witnessed my teammate getting shot out of the sky. And then Wally picked a fight with me, so I shot him with APFSDS into his face, which did absolutely nothing. So I reloaded HE and quickly cancelled any chance for a Wally sequel. After that, I refilled my ammo when I saw an M60 and shot him mid-air. Then I proceeded to get closer to their spawn and proceeded to just miss my shot on this. Then I saw this tank speeding past me, so I tried to catch up with him and shoot him in the back, but I missed again. And then the match was over. Game 10. This was my last chance to complete the challenge and drop the nuke. All the previous games led up to this moment. With immense pressure weighing on me, I entered our final round on one of my favorite maps, Poland. I started off by spawning my tank and rushing into the town to get into a favorable position where I could shoot multiple targets with ease. Things went pretty well at the start, but I realized that the enemy team had noticed my position. So they started to send stronger reinforcements. I had to call for backup. Fortunately, my allies spawned in a plane to help me out with close air support. Like a classic CAS player in ground battles, he bombed the enemies without them being able to do anything to him. At this point the game was going well, and I was confident we could win. But I also noticed that our silver line game was pretty ass. So I started to invest in banks that brought back a 15% investment return every turn. I was financially prepared to handle the repair costs after this game. However, I saw that the enemy spawn looked pretty unmolested. So I decided to change that. I called in backup from a helicopter, and he did what helicopter players do best: beat the shit out of the enemy 2 seconds right after they spawned. I also realized that at this point I still hadn't used my artillery strikes yet. And guys, I think they buffed them because they kinda feel pretty strong. But anyways, my teammates were in perfect sync, and I was getting closer and closer to dropping the nuke. But our enemies wouldn't go down without a fight. They sent stronger and stronger forces towards us, as if they had infinite resources to waste. But I was prepared. I even predicted that our enemies would start to use stealth tactics, and I prevented them from slipping by us by installing thermal vision and radar guidance for me and my teammates. And guys, this was it. I was getting very close to reaching enough spawn points to drop the nuke. And after this tough fight, I finally did it. I had enough points. The match was getting close to an end, so I waited a little bit for the final push to arrive. And then I dropped the bomb. To finally receive a boomerang monkey?